Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. As I am your host, Sean Garber, here with me as always, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
And well, today we will be talking about Horizon Forbidden West, the big game that came out this week as everybody gets ready for the next one coming up next week with Elden Ring. The Wii U and 3DS eShop are going down. Another Fire Emblem might be on the way, and more happening. We'll be getting to that right now after this.
Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling. You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, and of course, also watching if you want to watch us on the Twitch live, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can also go watch us later on YouTube, and of course, on podcasts everywhere there are podcasts on Apple, Spotify, anything that you can think of at this moment, Google Pods. I could sit there and list more, but I'm not going to because we don't have all day. But it's in a lot of places. And of course, you can also go on wtemnet.com and you can go on lastwordongaming.com as well. Two places that are, of course, we're part of wtemnet.com. It's part of WTM Network, which you get all of our podcasts that we do, not just game related, but also, there's entertainment stuff. Basically, Marc Riley and his crew keep up with everything movie related, everything TV show related, everything comic book related you could think of. They probably doing a show on it at some point. It's amazing what those people do. And if you want any kind of other thing, football, soccer, politics, gaming, actual like game show stuff, it's all there. Different podcasts. So if you subscribe to the network, you get all of that too. So enough with the housekeeping. Let's get on with what is happening this week. Of course, there's a lot of news concerning other people, other companies that we'll talk about, but I think we got to kind of start here. I know you haven't had the weeks of preparation like everyone else, Marc, to play Horizon Forbidden West, but how much have you played, and what are your like initial thoughts so
I
far on
played
the
about
game?
4 or 5 hours probably.
4 or 5 hours? Okay.
Yep, climbing is still clunky. They added some like weird like ease of use thing where you can kind of see like highlight, send a pulse out to see what you can climb on, which is like
Mm-hmm.
very not effective.
Yeah, I mean they made it to where you can enable it the whole time. So if you want to just have the yellow lines on constantly, you can.
Yeah, the problem is most of the crap you're climbing on is also yellow. So at least where I am, it's like a big area, or so it's like this isn't the most helpful.
Right.
Uh, combat's good. I tend to play that game as a stealth character. So I'm, hiding in the bushes and cutting up robots when I can. Uh, what else? It's a little buggy, like
Yeah,
not
I have seen that.
not game crashing or anything, but it's like a good example is like there'll be like a question mark on the map, and it's like I go to it, and it's like on a it's on kind of a higher terrain than I'm supposed to get up to because like the terrain is all like red, which means you can't climb on it. But
Yeah.
I somehow like Skyrim jumped my way up to the mountain, and it was nothing. And it's like, oh, this is probably inside the mountain somewhere that I can't actually get to right now.
Right.
uh so like just little things like that, like the climbing is a little. I mean, I would say not good or like not the greatest, but it's like functional enough, let's say, and you don't like die. I haven't like fallen to my death or anything yet. But I'm not even like in the open world. Like they have a very brief intro mission when you're with this dude, like exploring this old, like this ruined laboratory, and then it's like, okay, here's like the first open area, but not really, because you can tell it's not like the west. You're still trying to
Right.
get to. I'm still trying to get to the west. So, and it's just full of side quests, and that's what I'm getting hung up on, really. And it's like, I give them props for like having a bunch of stuff in it, but like, we don't need a post-apocalyptic version of chess. Like that's,
Yeah,
none of these
I've
games
heard
do.
that there is a game in there that
Yeah,
they
there's like
added.
a few. Yeah,
The,
I think there's like some tower defense one also. I haven't even seen that yet, but it's like
okay.
this stuff isn't really needed in this thing.
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
yeah, it's good. It's an open world game, and I'm enjoying it so far, at least.
So, how do you feel about the combat in the game?
The problem is kind of you're so weak, right? Like my character is so weak that it's best to stay not being open combat. I do
Okay,
think it's.
so
I think it's funny because like at the end of the first one, I used to give a total badass character, and it's like what. It's like, just like what they do in like Zelda. Like he throws all that shit away, like in the next game.
right,
And it's like, no, you should have kept that tripcaster or that, your cool bow or whatever. Like, yeah, I met the in that trailer, I met the black guy who looks like the guy from Doctor Who
uh,
Flux. His name is
or Michael,
Varl, I think.
kind of like Michael B. Jordan a little bit as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the guy, Black Panther. Yeah, Killmonger. Except he doesn't have like all the cool tattoos. And I met the John Bender looking dude or Seamus, whatever his name is. He's like a
Right.
returning character. But I haven't like done anything with them yet. I know at some point like you get like a home base, and you can start like upgrading that, which sounds pretty cool. But yeah, it's good so far. But like I'm so early on that like it's barely like I'm like level 8 or 9, so I just got like my first kind of active ability, which is like this cloak thing, but I haven't even used it yet.
So, how did you play the first game? Because I've heard that they've kind of nuked the ability to just add traps everywhere. You actually have limits on what you can have with you.
Yeah, well, you have like a limit. You have like a pretty small inventory. Like I can only carry like 3 or 4 traps, at
Right.
least right now. I think there's like ability or like levels or perks you can get to like carry more, but you can
Right.
craft on the fly. And then also like I think he just pulls from your stash, like
Right.
materials. So it's not like that the biggest hindrance. I did trap a lot in the first game, but like it's not a factor yet in this one because I'm facing only like 2 or 3 types of robot like animals, so it's not the biggest deal.
Okay. So you haven't run into the
No,
issue yet where
I did face like a few robot deer and use like the electric trap against them, and that worked pretty well. But
have you noticed? I'd imagine that you could definitely see the graphical upgrades pretty
oh yeah,
evidently.
it looks very pretty. Some of the faces aren't great looking, I'll say that, but like the game world itself looks really really good and nice.
That's what I think. A lot of people are hoping more. You're making that visual upgrade. Obviously, still a lot of people are playing this on PS4 as well, so you're
Yeah,
not perhaps seeing that
I've actually heard
much
the
of a
PS4 version
change.
actually looks like not terrible.
Yeah, especially on PS4 Pro, I think they did a lot of work to make sure that it works really well.
Yeah.
So, that's positive as well. Have you noticed anything like different? I guess in the small amount of time you've been able to have with it yet, or
There's more puzzles like with your focus or AR thing, at least so far. Like one was like, oh, I scanned this thing, and it's like you have to try to find. I scanned this like picture, and it's like, oh, try to find where this picture was taken in the real world, and it like wasn't far, but it's like, oh, this is a little more nuanced than like the last game,
right?
at least from what I remember, because I barely remember that last game. I like the story quite a bit, and I like Lance Hendrickson. Sorry, Lance Reddick, because he's always awesome. That's kind of about it.
Yeah, I've heard that they don't make as big appearances as you would think they do in the game, but
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it is you're having to take that artist's time to be able to do that. So,
Right.
it's always difficult to be able to get them in. So hopefully we'll get to hear more about your time with
Yeah.
the game. I guess next week, but at least you
Hopefully,
are playing it.
I'll get to the open area by then. Hopefully.
Yeah, I've heard it depends on like how you play. I've heard a lot of people are kind of getting through it in like 30 hours or so, and then people that are really wanting to spend time with it are spending a lot longer. So
I think it
I guess
was. Yeah.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think it was Mary Kish on Twitter who said like the intro area of Horizon is so long that like you could play the complete Resident Evil Village.
Really? Wow.
And I think she was kind of joking, but it took a lot of people off. But it's like, yeah, I can see that because the way they dole out these types of games, it's really insane that like they make the first area so expansive, and it's like, well, what about the rest of the game? Like,
I mean, the map is huge,
yeah,
so there's a lot of side quests and a lot of little moments with these tribal characters. So
yeah.
I'm sure.
I just got to like the next big town, and it's like once I got there were like 5 side quests popped up in my radar. I'm like, I'm gonna shut this off for now.
Yeah, because you'll get stuck in wanting to complete all those. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I heard there's a lot of weapons as well. That
I haven't seen
you
those
know,
yet. I mean, it's more like elemental weapons. Like I got like a fire
right.
bow, but that's not like different enough, or
Well, I mean, like yeah, like there's a lot of options that they'll give you as far as your bow, or if you want to do the melee
yeah,
part. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you think about all that when you do get to it.
yep.
But yeah, I think like we said of the open, Mark's kind of in his initial period here of talking about the game. So unfortunately, that's like all we can kind of dive into for this week. Next week, we'll definitely have more to talk about.
I've been playing other stuff. What about you?
Yes. Well, go ahead since you're already talking. Uh,
Uh,
get
me
more
and
into Lost
Jens beat.
Ark.
Hmm?
To get more into Lost Ark, or
Yep, I beat the first, pardon the expression, arc of the game, like the first area essentially. Uh,
yeah,
that game, like you can clearly tell at some point they like retrofitted on what I'm into now because like the first quest is like the first major quest or like the whole point of the game is you have to find these arcs, which are like magical stones or something.
right,
And I got the first one, and then it's like, okay, you got a ship now. Now your overarching quest is to find the other 6. I think there's 6, but that became like a different colored quest, or it became like the same colored quest that I was kept doing for the first part of the game. But like now I have like a new quest icon, and it's like, okay, something changed here because it's like I'm not finding these arc things like quickly. Like
right.
I'm doing like this stuff takes an incredibly long amount of time. So it's like when you have like a quest that's like, oh, collect these 10 books in this game world, and it's like, yeah, okay, but the 10th book is like in the last boss's castle. It's like this overarching mission
Yeah,
that is forever, and it's like that's you can just hide this or just not have it here anymore. Like it's fine.
yeah.
It's not like I'm just gonna
Like
stumble on one of these arcs like doing one of the pirate missions. It's like, no, this isn't how this works at all.
right.
Uh but I got my stronghold. That is insane. Uh I just did some weird arena combat thing where I was climbing up this like ranked ladder of NPC fights that were all really easy. I thought I'm like level 46 or 47 out of 50. Uh,
Okay, so you almost hit the level cap.
yeah, but I don't actually know what that does because I think there are like ultimate skills that it can or awakened skills that it can get, and the game's like kind of a mess just because it's like how much stuff they've bolted onto it since like launch or like revamped.
Right.
Like, you didn't play Final Fantasy 14, did you?
I played very little of it.
Like, think about like when that game first launched, when it was terrible, and they
Mm-hmm.
did the whole revamp, and like they started adding like expansions onto it and stuff. Like, imagine if you played that game now, how different it was, like compared to back then.
Oh God, yeah. Just all the
So
things you have to do and get through, and I mean, and then plus thinking about all the stuff they've added,
yeah,
going through that.
like the first act of Lost Ark is actually a pretty good Diablo-like game. But then they blow it out, and it's like, okay, here's this huge ass world map where you can sail between islands and like do shit on, and I'm just like, this is like big, like, and you're not really telling me why I should do any of this stuff. At least not like explicitly. Like I was trying to
Right.
find, you can like research stuff in your home base, and it's like, oh, you need 1,000 pirate coins to like do this research, and I'm like, I don't know how to get this stuff really. Like this, you didn't explain how to do that, so I had to like look on Google or like look on Polygon or something, and it's like, oh, just find them in the game world, and I'm like, that's okay, that's not
That's
helpful, but
helpful.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the world's so big. Like, would you really be able to like go and pinpoint all that? You know?
No, it's like Polygon was like, oh, you can find them occasionally in the game world, or if you do like island missions, you can get a lot, and I'm like, okay, but that still is not really a factor.
Yeah. So
But
do
I
you
think
like?
Hmm?
Sorry.
No,
Go
go on.
ahead. No, I was gonna ask like, so you do? You upgrade this stronghold and everything?
Oh yeah, it's like
Uh,
a whole timing base, like research. Level 2 stronghold will take 12 hours, so just wait, or let it run in
okay.
the background, or you can like make potions, make expendable items. Oh, it's like a whole crazy, and it's like almost it's like The Sims also. Like you can like make furniture and then place it
Oh
out.
wow.
I
Okay.
think there's like a whole system where you can like invite people to your stronghold to make it more popular, and
Ah,
it's like,
man.
why? Like, this ain't Animal Crossing. I mean,
Well, I mean, for some people, maybe that's a way to get them really into the game. You know, you do that part, and
yeah.
then you get others to go in on there and look at it.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
really it's involved, and that's kind of where I'm stuck in my reviews talking about that, because it's
Yeah.
like it's so involved, but like the tutorial, like it goes too in depth on certain things and not in depth in like way more important things, or
Did you have like all the currency dropped on you at once? Like,
oh, there's like
was it?
9 different currencies, I think, at
Yeah.
least, or I have no idea what like that pirate coin stuff. I'm like, I don't know how to get this, where it comes from, what it's
Right.
for, really. And I got like 4 or 5 more of those. Like even on the stronghold, there's like 4 or 5 currencies of like agent seals or like victory seals, and it's like, what? Okay, like I'm completely lost here. I think there's like there's like some exchange vendor somewhere, but that's about all I could figure out, really.
Right.
uh, but the combat remains great. Like that's like the biggest selling point for that game, to me still. So, and like I got this like weird pass system. I think it's called the Power Pass, where you can just straight up like level a character from like 0 to 50 instantly.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you don't have to fiddle with it as you can go straight to the end game stuff, I guess, if you want to.
yeah.
Uh,
See, Lost Ark is weird because it is an MMO, at least in theory, but I'm not playing it like that. I'm playing it
right.
like Diablo, so I don't care about like these like late game raids or like stuff like that. It's like, well, I know I'm never going to be good enough to do that anyway, so it's kind of moot to me.
Well, why do you think you're not going to be good enough if you're almost at the like the level
Well, I'm
cap
just not
and all?
dedicated enough, and I
Okay.
don't care about like raiding or crap like that. Like I joined a
Yeah.
guild just because the game kind of forces you to at a certain point, and I'm like, well, okay. Guilds are very
Yeah.
small in that game, which I think is weird. Like you can only have like a 30-person guild, and it's fine, but I don't talk to people if there's no like activity. So,
Right.
uh, but yeah, I think it's a great free to play game. Like you probably like it.
Yeah. If I wanted to be, if I could be stuck at my computer.
Yeah, have
long
your soul
enough
swallowed
to,
up by this thing.
yeah, then sure. If it ever came to a console, I would definitely check it out.
So one weird thing that happened, I think 2 nights ago, as I was playing, and I still got that $100 pass from the review code or whatever,
Right.
and I checked my inventory for like in-game stuff, and except for the currency, they gave me like another one.
Oh wow. You're just like, okay.
So that's like the one I popped that one because I'm like, well, now I have all this cool shit, like the stupid like Cerberus dog mount, and like my character doesn't look like a whore, like in. That was one of the funnier Kotaku things. Was like, oh, all the characters are, all the female characters look slutty, and it's like, well, it's a Korean game, so yes.
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean,
also, like,
I don't know if they really thought about it going past Korea when they initially made it. So,
but then also, like,
yeah,
you don't really look at your characters, like, because it's primarily like an isometric like perspective.
yeah, like
So
Diablo, right?
yeah, and like you're like, that's another weird thing is I think there's like a skin system as well as like your gear. Because like my character now, I popped one of those like legendary things, and I'm like wearing like not a bodysuit necessarily, but like at least something with pants or like stockings and like kind of a vest looking thing. And like all the other characters are running around like no like short skirts and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if there's like a skin system or not in this game. Like that's another
Okay.
thing that they're not really clear on.
Yeah.
But I really like how that game looks still. And I sent like a picture to Jens, and he was like, "Oh, you finally made an attractive character," and I'm like, "Not really. Like they all look like this, kind of."
Yeah, I mean, just from watching, trailers and stuff, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it looks great, and
Yeah,
the combat looks great as well. So,
right. Yeah, that's like I said, that's the strongest part of this game. It's just, and I've tinkered a little bit with like other character classes, and they play differently enough, so it's really interesting.
okay, I mean, that's great that you are enjoying your time with that game.
Yep.
Uh,
And the last game I'll talk about before the other adventure is that me and Yen found about beat Demon Souls.
so any thoughts now on Demon Souls on that you have beat
I
it?
finally beat one of those stupid games. I like this one probably the most. I've played Dark Souls 1 and 2, and I didn't like those at all. Demon Souls is kind of interesting because you basically like have a hub world, and like everything kind of it's like a wheel, like everything kind of radiates from that, like the center point.
Mhm.
We had a lot of trouble with getting invaded by other players. I don't like
Oh
that
man.
system. Like people just griefing you, and I was like, well, fuck off. Like me and my friend was trying to get through this game. Like leave us alone.
Uh,
We had a few like so we died a lot. Like some of the levels are really challenging. The final boss in the game is this. Oh, like the final like main boss is this like king guy. The
right.
first time in my game, we get another guy with us. You can have up to 3 people in a group, and the other guy just like smoked him. Like
Damn.
he was like highly leveled and just took him out instantly. Second time we got to him in Jens's game because we were dueling games because he created another character for himself, like a magic character as well. I read a guide that said like, oh, equip this thief ring, which makes you very hard to see. Walk up to the boss when his back is turned to you, and you can just poison him, and he dies. And that works. Like the boss just like stood there, and it was funny because me and Jens, we kept casting poison cloud on this boss. We did it like 40
Yeah.
times because the boss has like 5,600 HP, and we didn't know like how long the poison would last, or the controller would stop vibrating after a while after the cloud is gone. And it's like, no, you just need to cast it 6 times because the cloud takes 900 HP off of him. So it's like, oh, that would have been helpful to know, I guess.
Right? Yeah. It could have killed
But
him a lot faster.
yeah, And yeah, one of the other levels gave us a lot of trouble because there were like a couple like really hard like basic enemies in it that like we could not get past correctly. But we eventually kind of cheesed it, and yeah, we beat the game. So
Hey, well, there you go.
yeah,
You've
it was
now
cool. And then he uninstalled it immediately, which I thought was pretty funny.
got to make that space for Elden Ring, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
sure he is hyped about that already.
yep. And I bought a GPA SP.
Yeah, I saw that. You said your precious has arrived there. I had
I mean,
one of
I
those
found
as well. I loved it. So
yeah, I found it on Facebook Marketplace for like $100.
it's not bad.
It's the better model because it came out with two of them and it has like the better screen.
Yeah, there's the first one didn't have
It was like
a
not
great.
backlit; it was like side
Yeah,
lit, I think, or whatever.
they had to introduce one that had a backlight. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got that. Came with an AC adapter. Isn't too scratched up, and yeah, it works fine.
Hey, that's good.
It was funny because like the guy, I had to drive out like I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes away to pick this thing up.
Hmm.
The guy, he lived kind of in like a rural area, like in the sticks. He lived on top of this hill that like the street was a pure ice sheet,
Oh man.
and I could not find his address. Like it took me a second or two to find his like actual address, and thankfully he was on top of the hill. If he was like midway down the hill, I'd have not been able to get to him, or I'd have had to walk
Yeah.
because I was afraid of my car like slipping down this hill and having something bad happening.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, I'm glad you made it safe and sound and got your
Yeah,
GBASP.
it's funny because Jens is like, "Don't you already have that analog pocket?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." But the SP is kind of a nostalgia thing. Like I had one as a
Right.
kid, and $100 is actually not bad for that. For that specific unit and the condition. So hey, why not?
Right.
Meanwhile, he's spending like $4,000 on a stupid office chair. So it's like
Good Lord, $4,000 on an office chair? It's an office chair.
it might be more, or not even an office chair, just a chair in his office to listen to music.
Man, you know.
Oh,
uh,
and because Fraser Crane had one on his TV show.
well, you only live once, I guess.
Yeah.
When you got the money to spend it on that stuff, go for it. uh, well, anything else you have been
No, just
playing there?
those big three. I think I might abandon Monster Hunter because I don't like it.
Yeah, when you told me you were playing that, I was like, I'm gonna see how long
Yeah.
he sticks with that because I
Yeah.
do remember you liked the Monster Hunter World or whatever.
Yeah, for a little
Yeah,
bit until like the online systems like got in the way.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean that online system for that was just not great to begin with.
Yeah, I think at this point I got to start saving for like a new laptop because just mine is getting aged out essentially.
Yeah. That's why I don't want to get accustomed to playing a lot of games on the PC because I know that's gonna happen with mine as well. I mean, it really can't play much of the big. I had a problem with it running Back for Blood when I was playing with the Outer Haven guys. So I was just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
your laptop has like weird issues where it like switches between like performance mode and like regular mode, which I
right. I
don't
mean,
like.
I didn't realize that I wasn't on the. I had to because it makes you set it. You
Yeah,
have to set it before you start anything, and I forgot to do that when before we had started the game. Because Keith's, he's a tech guy. He builds PCs, so I gave him the specs. He's like, "Oh yeah, that should run that no problem." I was like, "You're gonna tell me that, and then watch me have issues with it."
right.
And of course, I
I
mean,
mean,
it was functional enough, but it did have its problems where it would like lag or cause me where I'd miss shots because
if I had your electric type of laptop, I just set it in performance mode and just like leave it be.
Well, it's because I didn't want to I didn't want to just run it in that thing constantly, and I worry about draining the battery or
Well, how often is it
whatever.
not plugged in?
Not very much, because I don't know why the computer does this thing where it doesn't seem to do as much anymore, but I'll get the luck of the draw where I waited until the thing shut off to remove the battery out of it. And then when I go to turn it on at work and I don't have the battery plugged in, it will be dead. And I'm just like, why is it basically losing all the charge in the time that it's turned off? So, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna
I'm kind
just
of amazed more that your laptop has a removable battery.
yeah.
Mine doesn't.
I mean, yeah, that's the only good thing is that, I could try to find a battery if something did happen to it where it won't charge or whatever. But
yeah,
I mean, I love it. It's a functional laptop. It does what it needs to do, and I can play, some games.
That's
on
also
it.
the thing.
So,
It's like you're not playing like the top tier, most recent games. So
right, yeah, that's what I use my
last,
consoles for. So
that thing will last you like 10 years if if you're running like Temtem on it or whatever. So
yeah. So I have been playing a game on PC, but I'll get to that in a second. So the one game I've been playing on my console, just because I've had to try out this. I don't know if I mentioned it last week that I got sent this Xbox charge kit to review. So that means I obviously have to use the Xbox controllers. So I was able to charge them. They've been holding a charge. Like, I've been using the Series X, and I played, I think, like 3 or 4 hours of Edge of Eternity, and which hit Game Pass. That was it came out for consoles on, I don't know if it's the same day as Game Pass, and then it's been out on PC for last year. But
yeah,
the consoles has like the better version of it. It's basically a JRPG, but then when you get into battle, it has strategy elements where you have to be in the certain squares to be able to hit the enemies. I'm still pretty early on in the game, so I don't know. I'm sure it gets a little bit more complicated as time goes on. But I mean, so far I've been enjoying it. It's a fun like JRPG, and you get to meet other party members. I'm not the greatest fan of the art style is very simple, but it's also made by an indie team. They just actually got bought out by Nacon, the same people that make that WRC game that you review every year. So
anymore.
yeah, well, not anymore, but they used to. So they bought them out, and then they bought out the Datalic, who make that Gollum game that's going to come out this year. So they've been on a buying spree for some reason. So either way, my point is that the controllers work pretty well. The only thing that kind of sucks is that I cannot use because it has its own charge pack. So you take the batteries out. It had its own little charge pack that you put in there. It had its own back. You don't use the back that's on the controller. You use the back that comes with the charge kit, so that obviously it doesn't burn out your the back of your controller. The only problem is it's bulky, so I can't put the clip that goes on top of my Xbox One controller to be able to play games on my phone. Because I do like using it's easier to pull out my phone and play on my lunch break than it is to pull out the laptop. I can just put up the phone. I can just put up the controller really fast and then go back to work. The laptop, I have to stop 5 minutes before to unplug the laptop and do all that other junk. So that's kind of a bummer. But aside from that, it does seem to hold charge pretty well, and it really does work well. And like I said, I've been able to enjoy Edge of Eternity while I'm also kind of testing out this charge part of the controller. So yeah, I mean, for being a kind of like indie JRPG that's seems to, and it has like 3D models and everything. It's pretty good. I'll see if I get further into it, but I like the party so far. They all have like English, uh, Scottish voices, so you can kind of think of it like that way as well. It has like the open world stuff from like Xenoblade, that kind of thing. So yeah, I've been enjoying that. Go ahead.
That is one funny thing about Lost Ark is like the first part had very little voice acting. Like a person would say they might have like a paragraph of text, but they don't say like the first line. The
Right.
second act, a lot like everything is voice acted now.
Oh, really? That's what. Yeah, because I remember you telling me that you're like, oh, they only kind of do like the first part, the first line in
Yeah,
English, and then the rest of it's in, I guess, Korean.
no, it's just silent.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's just kind of trail off, and it's like, okay, I guess recording time was short or something. But the second part is like, nope, full voice acting, and there's also a very funny Minish Cap level.
Uh, okay. The other game I've been playing is on my laptop. I'm reviewing this game. I think I'll finally be done with it probably by tomorrow and get to start writing the review. Kingdom of the Dead. It has a really cool like pen and ink art style. So it's like black and white, but it looks like it's drawn on, paper with pen and ink. So like that's like a really cool draw into the game. But when you get past that, it's a very simple, like old school Doom style shooter.
Yeah,
And a lot of a lot of the enemies are the same, regardless of which of the three areas you go into, which is kind of a bummer. They do have three different settings, like a mansion, a a mill, like a sawmill, and then they have like a crypt, which I thought the crypt was kind of like the coolest looking one. And that one actually has like where you can see yourself going down the level and everything, and you actually go through the different crypts to keep going. And so I thought that like level design was actually pretty good. But I mean, it's fine. Like it's the only thing I don't like is you run into problems where the characters can be off screen or not visible, and they can just shoot you or stab you or whatever, and you're kind of like, oh, half my health's gone by the time you realize that this character you can't see at all has been shooting you. So like, yeah, I have to wait till I die to remember that character's there the next time, so I can go kill him before he does that again. They do have save points in like the midway to the levels, but they're not like, you can't save yourself. So it's like, man, if you die, you're just stuck right there, and you have to go through that same section over and over. If you have to do that, they do have bosses and stuff, which is kind of neat, but
yeah.
there's not a lot of weapon variety. It's all the same kind of weapons, and I thought the gameplay is fine. It's just not anything that I would say is like revolutionary or anything. If you're really looking for one of those, there's probably other games to choose from. They tried to mesh like a kind of horror vibe with an FPS, and I think it works in that way, but because there's not a lot of, I mean, you see a lot of the same enemies over and over and over, and then you can hear them coming from a mile away because they all scream before you're like getting close to them. So it's just kind of like waiting for them to spawn, and then, all right, I'm gonna see if I can shoot like a few of these before they come at me. So there's that. It's just there's also a sword, but the sword kind of feels like useless because it's so much easier just to pick them off with the different guns. The sword is a
Yeah.
pain in the ass because if you wait for them to get that close to you where you can use the sword, you're gonna lose half your health before you can do anything. So, yeah.
I mean, Adam offered me that game, and I was like, I looked at the trailer, and I'm just like, no.
Oh, he did. He offered it to you. Okay.
Well, he sent that email out.
Yeah.
And I watched the trailer, and it looked like a inky version of Painkiller or Serious Sam.
Yeah, Serious Sam, that gave me that vibe as well, but less explosive-y and
fun.
Yeah, fun. This is very, very like methodical. Like, okay, go to this part, kill the thing, go to the next one. Oh, you might run into a different enemy here. I mean, they do give you a lot of ammo,
yeah,
which is nice, but it just, I don't know. I was just kind of like, all right, I'm done with this, and there is other difficulty options if you buy the game or whatever. I did get to learn WASD with this because it's PC. It's not meant for a controller. They let you use the controller, but to me, if I can't use the control sticks, I don't want to use the controller. We have evolved as a gaming community that we've evolved past the D-pad is the default. If I was playing a Super Nintendo game, sure, whatever. But we've evolved past that where we have control sticks now. And the fact that I can't use the control sticks makes it to where to me it's pointless to use the controller. So I had to use, I spent so long since I played an actual like PC game where I didn't use the gamepad or something. So it took me a little bit to learn all that. Yeah.
And then asking me what's wrong with the game because your mouse sensitivity was
way I've never had to deal with mouse sensitivity because I'm using the gamepad all the time. So yeah, it was funny because I thought there was something wrong with the game, and I'm sitting there telling my fellow editor at Last Word on Gaming, like, hey, I think there's something wrong with the game, and I'm like, well, Marc knows more about PC games than me, so let me ask him, and he's like, well, I don't think it has tank controls because that doesn't seem right. And I'm just like, let me look at this again. And I went through the options and I was like, oh, my mouse sensitivity is at 2. And then I put it all the way to 11. I was like, oh, well, okay, this definitely feels like a different game now. So all I had to do was barely move my mouse and I moved them around. So I was like, okay, this feels so much better. So I got over that part. And then, yeah, it's just, it's really short.
Now it's functional.
Yeah, now it's functional at least. I love this little mouse. It's like very silent and it's very mobile. I don't have a gaming mouse or anything, but I think it does the job. So yeah, it's a short game. Maybe if it's on a Steam sale or something and you're like going after, you're really wanting one of those and you think the art style is cool, go for it. But there's better games in that genre. I would definitely say spend your money elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm still I'm playing through Pokemon as well, but I really haven't advanced too much, so there's not much for me to say there. I'm still kind of waiting for. I'm waiting. Actually, Triangle Strategy is probably going to be my next big game that I jump into. So now that I'm done with this game, I can go play the demo. And I'll probably have thoughts on that next week. And yeah, and I played a demo for a game called A Musical Story, which is also, the demo's on PC, but it is coming to consoles as well. It's like a narrative game, but you play like rhythm game based stuff. So
yeah.
You don't control anything about the story. You just watch it happen, but you do the actual different, whether it's the drums or the guitar or the keyboard or whatever, they'll put notes on the screen. And actually, this is kind of neat because let me see if I can pull up a trailer for the visual people, but it's actually, I thought it was cool because what it's trying to do is it's trying to get you to feel the beat before you actually see anything. So, like, instead of,
I mean, it's like a lot of rhythm games like Cadence of Hyrule or
I guess you could call it that, like Cadence of Hyrule.
There was that FPS that came out, I think, last year, where it was like half rhythm game, half FPS.
Beats per minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's called. So yeah, like I just love the fact that, I mean, it does eventually, if you don't get it after a couple of times, it'll show an indicator to try to help you. But I really appreciated that it actually tries to let you, and I found myself like actually getting it after a while
Yeah.
and like feeling it on my own, and I was like, oh man, this, you do feel like you're learning as you go through. So I appreciate it. And then it's like the story's pretty simple. You only go through, I think, like the first 10 chapters or whatever, but it's neat. It's like if like Telltale told a silent story with music.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, that comes out the same day as Triangle Strategy, so I might be playing both of those at the same time. So those are kind of the two things I'm looking forward to. As we, I won't be playing Elden Ring, but maybe we can get Jens on to talk about it. If he gets some time to delve into it.
Unless he gets it for me to play multiplayer, I won't play it either, probably.
There you go. Maybe he'll do that. Maybe he will do that for you. Hopefully, since y'all play Demon Souls, maybe he'll be like, let's play this co-op. Let's go for
it. For him, it's going to be a test about like how stupid is the online going to be. So
yeah, you think it's not? You think it's going to be stupid? Like it won't
I think
have improved it at all?
I think it'll be exactly the same as Demon Souls. You can get like you have to be human or you have to be whatever to be able to like summon a person in, and then you can't get invaded, and then all that other garbage.
Okay, fair enough. So I mean, that's it for games as far as I'm concerned here. So let's get into the news, which last week we celebrated a lot of Nintendo, right? Talked about how cool the Direct was and everything else, and well, this week we go back to wondering Nintendo making weird ass Nintendo decisions. So if you don't know exactly what's going on, or just to kind of set the stage, randomly on Twitter, they made an announcement that as of March 2023, you will no longer be able to purchase Wii U or 3DS games from the eShop. You will. There's a timeline, which I don't have in front of me, of by a certain date, I think it's in April, is the last time you can add a credit card.
They said 4 months away, so
yeah. Well, no, there's a timeline to where you can add a credit card and make credit card purchases, which I think that's in April. But you can, I think you have till July or August to buy eShop cards, which you can just, instead of just using your credit card directly, you can go to a store or just go online and buy an eShop card and then put that into your system. So if you have, I think as long as you redeem the codes by a certain time, you can still use funds that you have in your account, but you won't be able to redeem the codes after a certain time, which makes it to where you basically won't be able to buy anything. And then March 23rd, March 2023 is when they're going to take the entire store down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we had this problem when when Sony did this with the PS3 and Vita store. They went ahead and shut down the PSP store anyway. Do you think that there's any chance that Nintendo reverses course here, like Sony did, or?
No, because I don't think Nintendo cares. They want to get people off. I think they want to get people off the Wii U at least because of that emulates old games well, and the Switch does not. So
Well, yeah, and then they have the virtual console, which
yeah,
I think
that's what I mean. Yeah,
that's the bigger thing for me and for a lot of people is it's not necessarily the Wii U games themselves because aside from Xenoblade Chronicles X and the two Zelda ports, which I'm pretty sure we're gonna get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess ported over to the Switch at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if before we get Breath of the Wild 2, they announce one of them getting brought over beforehand,
right.
especially if Breath of the Wild 2 gets pushed into 2023. They may announce that in their summer direct whenever it is, because now there's apparently not going to be an E3 at all. So now I guess they don't have the restriction of it has to be in June. So you have that, and the virtual console is a huge deal because the Switch doesn't have that. So you're going to lose the ability to have access to all those old games legally. Right? We just went through this one guy that got put in jail for a bunch of years for having a ROM site. Now, obviously, his thing was different because he was also making money off the ROMs. But I mean, Nintendo wants you to consume their crap legally, but then they take down their stores. So,
Like it's weird. Well, first I'll say is I don't think if Iwata was still alive, this would actually be going on.
you think so? You think it has to do with the team that's around now?
Because think about how long the Wii lasted.
Right, but the Wii was a success. The Wii U, according to a report that I have here, they've been wanting to get rid of the Wii U since 2014.
I mean, the Wii U is considered a general failure, but then it's like, okay, how many resources really does it take for them to keep the buying and selling of game server online, or like the authentication server? Like,
Right. I mean, yeah.
if it is somehow a big thing, then it's like you should be able to re-engineer that to make it not be that. But forget about the Wii U, really. Like the 3DS is kind of the crazier one.
Yeah, the 3DS is the one that I don't understand because it's your last true handheld system. It's a system that sold crazy amounts, right? I mean,
There are a ton more digital only 3DS games as well.
exactly. Yes, all those like little they had all those little bitty games that they made that were just for the 3DS eShop.
Yeah.
Right, that you won't have access to anymore. So you'll lose those games. You'll lose, I mean, you'll lose everything else. I mean, all the other digital eShop items and everything else. I mean, and the problem that you have also is that the physical games are going to go up in price ridiculous amounts.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to be super easy to find these games. Now, granted, again, very much like the same thing we had with the PS3 and Vita shops. Like, how many people really were buying, especially Wii U, but how many people are going around buying 3DS games still? I think for the Wii U, you can make the case, yeah, sure, drop it because you put almost all the good Wii U games on the.
Well, I think the 3DS is different because like that's still actually kind of an expensive console, even like used. But get it for a kid,
and it can also play DS games as well.
Well, I mean, like the digital stuff. Like, I'm sure the digital stuff is all mostly fairly cheap at this point, except for like the actual Nintendo shit. Because who cares?
Right. Well,
so,
plus Nintendo, they're not going to lower their stuff just to lower it. That's just how they work.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't pull out my 3D. I have it in a different room, so I can't even pull it out to be able to tell you if they even have a sale going on right now. But
they have sales every week, like just like PSN and the other one, and Xbox.
Yeah. But it's crazy to me that you're talking about one of your best selling systems, whereas like okay, you could say like, well, Sony kind of butchered it with the Vita. Like they could have made that a bigger deal if they would have put more effort into it, right? Whereas like the 3DS was certainly the
it is way more justifiable for them to cancel Wii U support, because most of those games are already online or physical. There are handfuls of digital only games, but not many,
right.
and it's not like the hugest demand for the Wii U or like as far as like retro games, but
Yeah.
3DS, like you can still occasionally find 3DS games like new in a store.
Yeah. And even then, it's like, I mean, yeah, you're gonna be able to find stuff physically, but it's just being able to have those games now. Now, to be fair, there are games that they don't even have in the digital store, right? That you still have to go find physically. Period. But losing that ability to have those games is just it sucks for game preservation, which we already have a problem with already anyway. And then you're gonna have these stores go down, and it makes more people worry about as is also now I don't know, right? This has not been corroborated by anybody. This is just one random employee that somebody was able to interview that says, after they give notice of 2023 that the server will be shut down after a time. After this time, the suggestion is that online play re-downloads the purchase content and everything else is going to disappear entirely. People will 100% lose their games if something happens to their Wii U, 3DS, or the drive they have the games on.
Right.
That makes you worry about having digital games, period. Because
for Nintendo, sure. I mean, as much as I kind of rag on Microsoft, like they have kept a pretty good lineage going back to the 360. As far as
that's because they kept it all inside the same ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right? With the backwards compatibility. Nintendo always like bracketed everything. Yeah. And it's just it sucks because they really could have offered some way to make this work. Now, I don't know if they're going to offer some way for you to eventually do that. I don't know, but
no, but pirates will.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Is Nintendo is so anti this stuff of like emulation.
It's not just Nintendo. It's part of the ESA guideline. ESA lobbying is they don't want digital preservation. But it's like, okay, but you don't offer legal ways to get these old games. So, bootlegging getting an R4 cart for the 3DS is kind of the only option.
See, I don't understand the point. Why do you fund lobbying that prevents libraries from being able to provide legal access to these games? Like, I don't understand why. We have preservation of everything else. Why is games this anti thing where we don't do that?
I mean, there are a few technical hurdles, as you clearly see with the Switch Online Pass and the N64 crap.
Yeah.
But I think for at least game makers, they really don't like to look backward.
That's true too, yeah. I mean, they sure do make remasters and ports all the time, but they don't want to look backward.
Well, I mean, the 3DS or the Switch has like the N64 thing, but it doles out a game every 2 months, and that's about it.
Well, they're doing it monthly right now, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Xbox is of the three the best, but even their system wasn't like 100%. And Sony
there's a lot of games missing.
Yeah, and Sony's is completely up in the air at the moment. So, people like retro games, but it's like, well, if you're not going to put in the hard work to get these working on the current systems, I'm just going to go to my computer or, start playing Mario World on my phone or something, because why not?
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's one of those things of just, look, they're not the first company to do it. We talked about it with Sony, but it's like you said, I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to go back on it.
Right.
And they're going to say, oh, we hear you. We're going to at least keep the 3DS shop open. They're going to just ignore it, live in their own world as they always do. And there'll be enough people to defend them.
I thought it was funny that on, I think Kotaku had like a report from like 3DS owners in Japan, what they were saying, and they were all pissed.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, everyone was like, oh, I'm going to start buying Steam games. And I'm just like, yeah, good luck with that. Like, because PC gaming in like Japan is like non-existent still.
Yeah, that doesn't. I don't think that's going to work necessarily as well. I do find it funny that the foundation, the founder of the video game like preservation foundation, Frank Cifaldi, was just like, all right, you have license now to crack open your Wii U's and your 3DSs.
Yeah.
To make sure that those games can still work, years from now, because Nintendo sure isn't going to do that.
I will generally take a moral position that if the console is not being sold like new in stores or games aren't still coming out for it, it should be open season.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. I think that's the one thing Nintendo's not going to admit, that they don't like the fact that these consoles are basically jailbroken.
Right.
And you can kind of just get whatever game you want.
Or play it on a computer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they don't want that going around. They don't want more people discovering that and kind of circumventing the whole sales system. So
yeah, but imagine though if they just started, they wouldn't do this. Imagine if they started releasing their old games online, like for the PC. Like, hey,
oh no, they'll never do
it. Yeah, but imagine if they did. Like, hey, you want to play? What's the one?
Mario
Princess.
Yeah, wasn't it? Mario 64 got like they almost remastered the whole thing.
Well, yeah, because it developed on PC or whatever. But imagine it's like, hey, you want to play Twilight Princess on PC, like legally? Give us like $40.
Well, not even that. It's just like, why not start? I mean, that's the problem. Is like they can't even release 64 games on their Switch Online thing without having them all having some kind of problem. So, people are wondering if they're ever going to release Game Boy games in general on that thing. And then you're going to go cut off supply to more games and make it even more difficult for people to buy them. It sucks. It sucks when this happens because, again, it's what I'm a person that is adapted to just, we get review codes digitally. PC games are pretty much all digitally at this point. I mean, more and more games are digital. Like indie games are pretty much, unless you got a thing through limited run or whatever, they're almost all digital. So like the only things that are getting physical, but even Microsoft, Halo Infinite was not on the disc. It was a blank box, and then you just go put the disc in there basically, and the disc doesn't have the game on it at all. It's just a thing that makes the downloader start. So like the only ones that are really doing this is Nintendo and Sony out of the first party, and then of course the third parties that are still doing physical releases. But it's getting more and more like even the big special editions that come now, they have digital keys in them.
Yeah.
So you're not even getting physical releases of those games, even though you're getting extra stuff with it.
Yeah, I think like Far Cry 6 had that. Or like one of the Ubisoft games, or Wolfenstein 2 definitely had it, where so you could get this whole like bag and all this other crap for it, and it's like you don't get the game, and it's like what?
Yeah, even when you like, other than Nintendo, even when you buy a console, the games, if you get a pack-in game, they're digital. You don't even get the physical versions of that. So it's already to that point. More people are buying digitally. So when you do things like this, it makes them question the viability of digital gaming.
Let me ask you, when was the last time, not counting like gear, like that Microsoft thing you just got, when was the last time you actually got a physical game to review in the mail?
Oh my God, I can't even. Oh yeah. The last one was Mario Kart 8. The one time Nintendo worked with us.
You actually got like they actually sent like a physical copy though?
Yeah, this was back in 2017.
I can tell you mine. Disney Infinity 3.0.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, because it had to be.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
and that's probably one of my other ones was the Skylanders Swap Force. What had to be physical because it was, you had to have the things to put on the portal and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be honest, I mean God, I almost have to go almost back to the old 4-in-1 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Of 2012 to 2014 ish era when you had more games physically or whatever. But really, ever since the PS4 and Xbox One days, that's all been all digital codes basically.
Yep.
So even the PS3 and 360, that was mostly digital codes as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the thing is, whenever somebody does decide to pull that plug on the PS3 store and the Vita store, I don't think they're going to back down the second time because they'll be like, well, we gave you extra time. What are you guys doing? We told you. Yeah.
Microsoft had already done it once with
Yeah.
the original Xbox and like, that Xbox Live and that
but
no one cared then because no one cared about that system. So
right. Yeah. That's a bit different. And again, I think the only reason people really care about the Wii U is because of the virtual console, not really because of the games on the Wii U itself.
Well, like except for that one Xenoblade game you like, every good Wii U game and like the Zelda, every good Wii U game is already on the Switch. So
right, well, that's what I'm saying. The virtual console is a big deal because it doesn't look like Nintendo has any thought to bringing that in. It's all going to be, okay, well, how do we keep adding things to the Switch? I mean, which I don't blame them. If you're making people pay for this service, you got to add more things to that service to make it viable for them. But you're not going to add this thing to make the games available piecemeal again. So whenever it is that Nintendo feels like it and they cut that Switch Online service off, you lose access to those games.
Yeah.
Because you're not even downloading them. They're stream only. So that's another problem. It's like those you don't even own. So these last ditch things that they have of owning Earthbound or owning Metroid or owning whatever game you want to insert here from the past, when those go away, you can't buy them. You're then left to emulating them again. And we know what the process is with that, and then not everybody wants to play things on their computer. So it's just, man, it sucks. It sucks to hear that this is happening, and Nintendo, let's see. This will probably be an evolving thing. You'd hope that they will go back on it, but I don't really think they will.
Nope.
But hey, I know something you might be a little bit more excited about is there is some rumors there might be another Fire Emblem game coming out this year that might actually be part of the series, not like Fire Emblem 3 Hopes. That's the Fire Emblem Warriors 2, basically, the Musu game.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already released Fire Emblem, 1 as just basically the actual Nintendo, the NES version that you could buy on the Switch. Then they remastered Fire Emblem 2, kind of, I guess, sort of remade it. I mean, do you think it could be something like, I don't know what Fire Emblem 3 is at this point. Do you think it could be something like that? Or do you think I don't know, there would be another Fire Emblem, like the next version of Fire Emblem.
I could see it being like basically a sequel to Three Houses.
You think
or
so?
like a what if story. Sure.
Okay. Do you think it actually comes out this year? Or you...
I mean, if it's gonna be like my theory, it might come out this year. But if it's a whole new game, whole new story, characters, everything like that, then no, because they can't just recycle shit. They have to like make it new.
Right, as we saw with what was the latest game that they said they won't make another one because I swear they just talked about the Swiss successor. They won't make a Swiss successor until they can figure out something new to do with
Well,
that.
that's like F-Zero.
Yeah, but it's like I don't really know what they could honestly do to do much different with it other than just putting 4K into it isn't really doing anything new. You're just making it look better. So all right, it already has motion controls sort of, so
Maybe like a better
yeah.
screen, like a
Yeah, and they can already do that. They can just make this version of the Switch that exists now with an even better screen than the OLED.
No, I meant like a better. I don't mean like 4K. I meant like a better touchscreen rather.
Yeah, I guess make it more touchscreen intuitive if they want to make it more like a tablet. But they've been they just added Crunchyroll this week. What are we gonna? The next one's gonna be able to you can add any app you want or something, make it more like the Steam Deck. Like I don't see them going that route. So I just it's very interesting that like Nintendo has such a thing of like, well, it has to innovate. It has to be something different. And I can kind of get that in a way. They've always been innovators like that. But it's like you get to a point where it's like, you're going to tell me you're not going to have a Switch 2 at all after the way the Switch 1 sold? Like, really? I can't believe that for a second. Like, I definitely think that maybe you're going to call it a Nintendo something else. But I feel like this is now their second system. This is now like their 3DS, their Game Boy. Like, you've got to have a version of this.
If innovation is now their big mantra, or their whatever they care about, my response would be, how the fuck did the GameCube innovate then?
But that's the point. After the GameCube, they've had this mantra of like, okay, if we're making a new console, it has to do something different. And then, of course, they've also made that go
the GameCube was a failure, so they're innovator or not.
I don't know what they consider the GameCube a failure. It's more of like, well, we're not going to try to compete with those Sony and Microsoft again like that. Yeah. Where we're just going to go try to compete with them with power because Nintendo just can't do that. That's just not their MO. And they don't seem interested in trying to find... They're definitely not going to do what Microsoft does, which is always try to be on the cutting edge of whatever the next powerful system thing is.
Right, because they don't... Yeah. Well, it's proven out that they don't need to, so why would they?
Yeah, why would they make people want to pay more for something that they always try to sell it on the cheap or whatever? So, yeah, it's just a weird thing to me that they have that stuck in their heads. But hopefully for the Fire Emblem fans out there that are upset about Three Hopes, you'll get your wish on that. So how do you feel about... I know Randy was telling me he was really hoping it was the Resident Evil 4 remake or even Resident Evil Village DLC. But it looks like the countdown that Capcom put up is going to be Street Fighter 6. How do you feel about...
I would call Street Fighter 5 not a notable game or a good one.
Well, they've, it came out in 2016. They redid it 2017, redid it in 2020. It has a tournament going on right now.
That's the thing is, aside from... Think about Street Fighter 4 compared to Street Fighter 5. Like, Street Fighter 4 really brought, like, a fighting game genre back. Mortal Kombat has always been going on, but there's a pretty long gap between Street Fighter games, at least even the numbered ones.
Right.
So Street Fighter 4 brought the genre back. Street Fighter 5 almost killed the genre because just no one liked it except for like the handful of fighting game nerds. Like it was so. Street Fighter 4 is a game where you can get it in someone's hand, and draw them in. And Street Fighter 5 is like only for the fighting game crowd. I mean, that was proven with how they launched it. Like they launched it in such a rush state because I have to get it out for the Capcom Cup. It's like, what about the story? Or what about like an arcade mode?
Well, remember the story was like a afterthought. It was like this 2-hour thing that they added later.
The story is like worse than like Guilty Gear's story, which is a literal anime movie.
But at least Guilty Gear, you know that's what it is going in. Like,
well, at least on Guilty Gear, they have it on the fucking disc. Like,
right.
And you get something for watching it.
Yeah, I agreed there.
I mean, they had to support Street Fighter 5 because they couldn't go back to 4 because they couldn't admit failure like that. But no one cared about 5, at least like in the main.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You don't really hear people outside of those tournaments really talking about it. Like, oh man, I'm sitting here still playing Street Fighter 5. Like,
yeah.
Do you think also the exclusivity thing had something to do with it, where it's like only on PlayStation?
Not really. I mean, it probably didn't help, but I think like there's too many other things stacked against that game that it being only a PS5 game, like who cares?
Right.
It's not like if it was on Xbox, they would have cared, like because it still would have been the same busted mess it was on the PS5 or PS4.
I mean, so like, do you
played
think
that game?
Huh?
I played that game on the PS5 because they had that 2020 version, or PS4, I think actually.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be like the last version before they added even more characters. On the character select screen, they still had Ken's fucking hair clipping through his costume. And it's like, this game has been out for 4 years and you can't fix that, or
yeah.
I mean, granted, that's a very minor thing, but it's really indicative of how that game was just rushed and they don't care about like fixing some of the like little problems that just drive people into like bigger problems.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I guess it'll be like I guess it'll be like Star Trek. Every odd number of games are bad, and even number ones are good.
Do you think that they'll be able to improve it from Street Fighter 5? And
I think it'll be I think it almost has to be a different art style because Street Fighter 5 wasn't like different enough.
Right, from 4. Yeah.
Right. I think it'll be a pretty different roster because I don't think Street Fighter 4 actually had some pretty good new characters. Street Fighter 5 did not.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I mean, they'll have the old standbys like Ryu, Chun-Li, Ken, Honda, but I think they actually have to go back to the drawing board and come up with like some original new characters, or if not that, have like weird returning characters.
I mean, like, so that would you say like the gameplay is good? Like, do they need to change things there, or is it?
Street Fighter 5 from 5.
Yeah,
I didn't like that gameplay either because they had like the whole like V trigger system or V variable or whatever bullshit they had, and it's like this is not fun. So do something.
Yeah. I mean, it has been long enough since the original one came out. So, and if it's happening on the last day of the tournament that they're doing, it just makes a lot of sense for it to be Street Fighter related. It is their 35th anniversary as well this year, so
they're just gonna make it. It won't be Street Fighter 6. They're just gonna make it a HD port of Street Fighter 1.
Oh god, right? That would be the ultimate. Like, oh, we made that 30th anniversary collection, whatever, but we're just gonna Street Fighter 1 again. Why not?
You only can play as
Yeah.
Ryu, and that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it'll be the most beautiful looking game ever.
But I mean, let's see. It's supposed to be basically announced at like in a few hours
Yeah.
Eastern time. So by the time you're hearing this, it'll have already been announced, and we'll probably know that that's what it is.
I mean, personally, I find this incredibly boring. Like, they should let Street Fighter rest for a little more while and bring back, like, Darkstalkers or Rival Schools or Power Stone or any other franchises that people care about still.
Yeah. Well, speaking of franchise people care about, Super Mario RPG, definitely one that people care about a lot.
I'm one of them.
I do as well. Chihiro Fujioka, director of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, said that he would love his final game to be another Mario RPG if possible. And of course, he said that to MinMax, and then it was transcribed on Nintendo Life. He talked about how much he loved the game and that he'd love to make another one. And, obviously they've had those other, Mario and Luigi games, but it's not the same as the, Mario RPG. Of course, this is a very beloved game, as Mark and I both really care about that game. And then also just the thing of like, it's a game that got 9.5s, 9s, it's I mean, how many people have wanted was it Geno in Super Smash Brothers forever?
Yeah.
So we're not the only ones that really care about this game, and some people would love it.
It's just Nintendo doesn't love it, apparently.
It's Nintendo like not getting over their thing with. I think it's like some of it's not getting over their thing with Square because
it's the bad blood between those two companies, but the Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, because it's like, man, how many people have come out and said that they want to make it or they love to see it? They know people want it. It's almost as bad as like the Mother 3 situation of just they know people want this. They just refuse to do it. Refuse to go through the hoops to do it.
Yeah.
Because they may see it as a niche thing or the expense and the time that they're going to have to give to doing that is not,
But I mean, if that's the case, let's assume that's true. Then put it all on Square and say, "Hey, Square, like, if you want to make another one, feel free. We're not gonna charge we'll charge you a nominal fee to use the Mario shit, but all the design costs are gonna be on you. But then all the profits be on you as well."
What's funny is they had Square do that Mario Hoops 3-on-3.
Yeah.
For the 3DS, so it's not like Square Enix hasn't done something with Mario more recently.
Or like, I imagine that Ubisoft, that Mario and Rabbids game, like I'm sure I think Ubisoft is one actually like developing those.
Exactly, yeah.
Like
that's why they always show it off in the Ubisoft stage.
Yeah, Nintendo has obvious oversight, but they're not the ones like making that game. So
right. And the only reason is because the first ones did very well, or they probably wouldn't be doing that again.
Right. I mean, it's a bummer. I'd love to see Mario RPG 2 or like Mario RPG HD. That'd be also cool.
Right. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, they did just have I forgot who it was, announced that he really did they want to do more HD 2D RPGs, which is why Live Alive is coming. So and they're already doing Dragon Quest 3. So like, why not? Why not do Super Mario RPG HD 2D? Could you imagine? That'd be amazing. Like,
right.
I mean, that and Chrono Trigger, like, just let's do it. I mean, obviously you'd have to get a lot more sign-offs on the Chrono Trigger thing, probably, but still. Let's make it happen, folks. Let's do this. Speaking of Ubisoft, let's go down. So there's a lot of movie and TV stuff. I'm gonna do that at the end because it's like all just one smorgasbord of movie and TV video game announcements. We can just kind of all talk about those all together and kind of like which ones we really think we're excited about and which ones we kind of don't care about or whatever. So Ubisoft has like a couple of things that they've been in the news for. One of them is the terrible 200-day challenge thing that Ubisoft is not going to give any community rewards for it. Of course, they've been criticized by current and former staff, a group that calls themselves the Better Ubisoft, trying to improve things for the Ubisoft employees, and that's kind of not a whole lot's been happening there, unfortunately. What has been happening, though, is that apparently there is still Skull and Bones in development, Mark. And apparently it's coming out this year also. But they turned it into more of a multiplayer first game.
The reason it's coming out, or the reason they're still working on it, is I think like when they made Ubisoft Shanghai, like one of the requirements was like
or Singapore, I think it is.
Huh?
I think it's Singapore.
Oh yeah, sorry, whatever Singapore. Ubisoft East Asian company, let's say that. They had to make a game. Like they had to like develop a game by themselves, or like, it couldn't be like co-developer or anything like that. So they got Skull and Bones, and that's why it's in such a shambles, because you keep like resetting it and fucking it all up. But they're like forced to make the game, so they have to.
Yeah. I mean, at least they're trying, right? At least they're continuing to. I mean, they could just kill it.
No, they can't.
Well, I mean,
close the studio.
Well, yeah. If they wanted to just be like, okay, look, this is not really working out, but if they made it more multiplayer focused, which makes more sense for Ubisoft because they have so many things that are multiplayer focused.
Yeah.
That they just continue to just do a lot with. This would be another one of those.
See, I think Ubisoft really likes the idea or the image that they're like some multi like country company, or like multi like national conglomerate. Like, we have studios in Toronto and France and
yes,
Singapore and like all this other crap. And I was like, that doesn't really matter. Like, it's whether or not you make good games, and your output over the past few years has been spotty at best.
Well, I mean, to them, it's a big deal. I mean, and it looks nice when you're sitting there talking about, oh, well, we have enough money to be independent, but if somebody were to come and make us an offer, we're definitely going to evaluate it. Like, we may be interested in being bought out by someone.
Which is hilarious because, like, a few years ago they fended off that
the Vivendi one.
Yeah.
But maybe they're seeing the writing on the wall, right? Of being like, well, Microsoft's kind of doing it, and it's not been a terrible thing for these companies, and Sony's buying. I don't think Sony will buy a publisher. I think Sony will just keep buying studios. And Ubisoft, it doesn't make sense to just buy a studio off of them.
I could definitely see Sony buying a publisher, just not Ubisoft.
Well, yeah, they would probably go more the Japanese route.
Yeah. They'll either buy Square, Sega, or Capcom.
Yeah, like I don't think they would go the route of buying Ubisoft. Yeah, like if anybody bought Ubisoft, I think
Nintendo.
Other than Tencent, no. Other than Tencent stepping in, Microsoft I think would be the only other one that would do that. I mean, they already want to get the Ubisoft streaming service on there. So, I mean, what would be the next logical step is, as I'm showing 2018 Skull and Bones crossplay here, or gameplay on the video version. Like, it's I can see it happening. Like I'm not gonna. I mean, after what we've already went through, I don't say never on anything at this point. So to be fair, Activision was basically there to be bought, and there was already investigations that apparently the day that Activision's stock went down because of the reports about Kotick knowing stuff came out is when Phil Spencer that was the first time they had a conversation about buying, which makes sense. But I mean, Ubisoft is kind of going through its own troubles, not in the same vein as Activision Blizzard, but
Ubisoft is a lot more not as public, or it's not quite as in your face.
yeah,
Or not completely ruinous to the company.
right. As my dog comes and tells me, I guess, that she wants to go to the bathroom. Not the time.
If you need to take a break, you can. Like,
well, this stream is not gonna. That's the one problem with doing it on the StreamYard is we can't just pause it like I could with the old audio recording studio. So, where there's probably not a whole lot left for us to talk about, but that's gonna be interesting. I mean, obviously, Microsoft can't do jack until this whole thing with Activision Blizzard goes through anyway. So, they'll have to wait a while if this was even going to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they have that Assassin's Creed Valhalla next expansion coming out pretty soon. Or did they turn that into their own game? Didn't they?
No, it's the expansion, like the Thor or the Odin expansion is coming out in like a month or two.
The Dawn of Ragnarok or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's like a rumor that like they were working on another expansion, like a third expansion that was going to be more stealth focused on like the asshole assassin in that game, and they're going to spin that off in like a smaller game.
Oh, okay.
So it'll probably be like Assassin's Creed Rogue or something, or like something like that.
So a couple more things. Hideki Kamiya wants to resurrect Scalebound, which I'm sorry, but just let it be dead.
I mean, yeah, but I thought it was hilarious because he got interviewed. Him and like the Platinum CEO got interviewed about what's going on, and he basically said like, if NFTs are worth anything, or Konami will start sniffing around because they want money.
Well, they already did.
Oh yeah, but
so, he was not wrong about that, but they already did that. Look, I think Scalebound was a different time. Like, I just don't think that I don't remember seeing anything about that game that made me go, oh yeah, this is going to be amazing. Like, we've also had other things with dragons since then. Like, it's not this revelation of a game or what. I mean, even like whatchamacallit, like a Forspoken's gonna have dragons in the game. I mean, I get it though. The thing that was cool about this is you're gonna be able to like control one or whatever, but I don't know.
I mean, if they want to take another crack at it, go ahead. Or if you want to call it something else and not have you tied to like Microsoft, feel free. But they're in a pretty decent spot, so they can kind of do whatever they want.
I mean, I'm all for Platinum, like wanting to keep getting them some business, and then of course they've already announced that they're going more live service in the future, especially with that whatever the Project GG is.
Yeah,
that they're not gonna do so many of these live action, these action games anymore because they don't have a lot of life to them after you get done playing. I mean, what do you feel about that? Like, if they don't make any more Bayonetas or the ilk, are you going to be sad about that?
No, because I imagine that they'll keep making at least one or two single player games every so often. Because if they put all their eggs in one one live service basket, and then that basket goes away, then they're screwed. So
yeah, they definitely have to get more money for Tencent at that point. I mean, yeah, just I'm all for them wanting to do that, but it's just like, I don't know. I kind of would hope they just leave scale down where it is.
Yeah.
That being said, Dragon Age 4 is definitely still doing its thing, and it's actually doing well. It's going well in development, and according to Jeff Grubb on his latest episode of Grub Snacks, he talked about that it looks like it's maybe releasing in the back half of 2023. So I know you really liked Inquisition, so
yeah, but I'm one of the few who like that one. Everyone likes the first one instead. I mean, it's good. It's good. It's coming out, I guess, because I think they cut out multiplayer, which is the right thing.
yes, thank God. Yeah, you don't need that. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
So good that Dragon Age is going well. So the last string of things here is a bunch of, like I said, movie, TV show stuff. The Cuphead TV show is actually out there on Netflix now if you want to go watch it. Of course, the Uncharted movie came out the same day as the Horizon game, so I guess you can go to the theater and watch that if you want. I've heard it's one of those like forgettable action films. You'll watch it and then you forget it existed after you finish watching it. I'm sorry, Randy. I'm sure he got upset when I said that, but
I won't see it probably because it looks like a very predictable, action adventure movie essentially, with no real hook or something to make it different.
That's definitely one I will wait until it comes to a streaming service or Redbox or.
But remember the old line? Do you like Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah.
Remember the old line in that movie? When hell is full, the dead will walk the earth.
Yes.
Well, the line for this segment should be called "When there's no more books or comics to adapt, then the producers will start adapting video games."
Yeah, or when one video game franchise does really well at the box office, or two of them, they need to go ahead and think that that's the next big move.
Yeah.
In cinema.
I know. Well, it's funny because I know Jens here. He listened to the soundtrack and he likes that. But he was telling me that people were like ticked off that like they didn't use the game soundtrack for the movie.
Are you kidding me? They're not going to do that.
What fucking movie ever uses the game soundtrack?
They're going to use their own soundtrack. Yeah. They might get let's say Final Fantasy had another movie that was actually based on Final Fantasy. They might get Uematsu to do some of the music work, but they're not going to rip the tracks from the soundtrack.
At most, like they have the credit sequence has like the old like a game theme or like some remixed thing. But yeah, no movie adaptation has like the game music in it.
Yeah, like you said, other than for like a little brief snippet to give you an Easter egg or something like that. Like, nah, man, come on.
Yeah,
I mean the iconic Mortal Kombat song is from the movie, not from the games.
Right.
So, and it's not from the most recent movie; it's from the old one. So anyway,
the good one.
So like as Mark mentioned, so we know that Sonic 2 it's pretty much we're waiting for it to come out.
Yeah.
So people are so excited about Sonic 2 that they've already greenlit a Sonic 3. And there's a Knuckles TV show starring Idris Elba. I mean, I don't know how we're going to do a whole... I mean, if there's anybody that could pull off an entire TV show...
Well, it's just voice
Knuckles,
acting.
It's Idris Elba, but...
I mean, there is a very long and complicated history with Knuckles. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, they did say that the other characters will probably make appearances. So
Yeah, I imagine if not, it's gonna be like a Knuckles show. It's gonna be all about the echidna shit.
right.
Him trying to find his lost people or some bullshit like that.
Yeah, unless it's gonna be like him going against Sonic or something like that.
No, because it'll be
Yeah.
like I imagine in this Sonic 2 movie, like Knuckles is a villain, and then at the end he realizes that Robotnik or Eggman is a villain, and he turns on him and teams up with
Right.
Sonic. Uh, I'm more curious about the budget of that show because like that Sonic is kind of that's kind of an almost expensive movie just because of the CGI character. Like Sonic looks detailed. Like
Right, exactly. Uh-huh.
will they have that level of detail in the TV show? Like maybe. I mean, but I imagine it'll be cheaper than like a movie. So
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder about um like if Paramount Plus, they have the Halo series that they're doing, and they're already going into controversy because they're gonna unmask Master Chief, which they've already done that in the games as well. People just forget. If you finish the campaign on Legendary of, I forgot which Halo it is, you see Chief unmasked as well. So are they going to be able to pull it off? I mean, they're not. When you look at all the different streaming services out there, they don't really have. They're kind of like in the same territory as Peacock, where they don't have these series that people are like lauding, that they're going like, oh my god, you got to watch this, like HBO and Netflix and Hulu do. So, like like you said, I wonder how much of a budget are they going to give these shows. I think they actually already announced that Halo's going to get a second season,
yeah,
regardless of whatever happens with the first one. Because but obviously Halo has a ton of lore that they need to go into, so that kind of makes sense. But Sonic, doesn't have this.
no.
Yeah,
The problem with Sonic, it has way more lore than you can ever imagine.
well, yeah, but like, what do they pick from? It's
just use the Archie Comics version.
and I'm sorry, I'm not playing a trailer for Sonic 2 because anytime you play any kind of movie trailer, they automatically copyright strike your video, so I'm not gonna bother with that. So it's just, I think it's cool. I like the fact that we're doing a lot of Sonic stuff. I just hope that they don't lose the vision and all of that.
I'm waiting for the Big the Cat fishing TV show.
Yeah. Last of Us, the TV show will not air this year as first thought. It will now be 2023. I wonder if that means they also push back the Last of Us remake game as well. Or they release it in really late this year so that basically it's kind of feeding into whenever the Last of Us TV show it's going to air in 2023. Yeah. I mean, the more time they can spend with that, the better. I have seen what?
Yeah.
I'm just saying I have seen like the clips I've seen or the screenshots look great. So yeah.
The only way I find this acceptable if they delay the game is if they somehow add in like a movie, like a TV show filter where like Noel or Joel looks like Pedro Pascal and everyone else is like.
Wouldn't they have to pay him a bit more money to do that though?
Yeah, but it'd be pretty funny. I'd buy that game again then.
See if they do. One of my favorite actors, I really loved him in Justified. Walton Goggins is going to be the lead in the Fallout Amazon Prime Video series.
I don't know if it's lead or not, but he's gonna play like one of the ghouls, probably like the main ghoul, probably. But
yeah,
it's good casting. I like him.
Yes, I agree. I don't know what to make of much of this. Considering that they have a lot of backlash right now from the Lord of the Rings movie.
I mean, the thing was
the series. Sorry.
the thing with Lord of the Rings is that they already came out with 3 very successful movies, or very faithful and loyal to the books. I mean, Fallout has a history, but who cares? Like,
Right.
really?
Amazon does make good shows.
Yeah.
But very much like Netflix, they're hit or miss, So
I mean, the bare essentials of Fallout, you just need like post-apocalyptic town, vault, and super mutants and ghouls. So they already got one of those.
well, they can definitely do it. Let's see what they do with the rest of the cast here. Another one that I felt like, if we remember, right after Pirates of the Caribbean, Gore Verbinski was going to make a BioShock movie.
Yeah.
And then it got canned. Way long time ago. So now the Netflix is going to make a BioShock movie. Interesting.
I don't know about this. I think BioShock is almost too big of a story to be some like 2-hour movie or a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah, I agree there. I still think that video games work better as a series because you could tell more of their story that way, other than Sonic.
I think you could do a BioShock movie, but it's just going to be very kind of surface level, or it would kind of have to really follow the plot of the game. Like guy on an wakes up from an airplane crash, goes to the lighthouse and gets into Rapture, and then tries to figure out what's going on. But I don't know if you do like the whole like "would you kindly" thing, because it's already established, or
Yeah,
what the twist might be. But who knows?
yeah. I'd be down for a BioShock movie if they're gonna do it right. That's the one that if they can do this correctly, I think it could work.
Yeah.
And they could also lead it into a show as well if they wanted to. If the movie does well, so let's see. And then also to add on to that, Amazon is doing even more. Life is Strange, which it's already pretty much a glorified, film
I was
show.
talking. Well, it's 2 TV shows. I was talking with Jens about it. It's very comparable to Riverdale, except with less supernatural stuff going on.
Right. Would they go through the whole Life is Strange 1, 2, 3, all that, or are they going to make their own characters?
See, that's the other thing is I'm not sure how you do that series, because let's say they just adapt Life is Strange 1 to be like the first season, and it's like successful. Do you just add more with that character like Max and Chloe,
Yeah.
or do you do like that American Horror Show and just do like season 2 as the next game, or the next season rather?
Right.
And then if you do the first one, like more Adventures of Max and Chloe, like the problem with that Riverdale ran into was, even when the actors were cast, most of them were like in their early 20s. So I think this like last season of Riverdale, they had to do like a time jump of 7 years, because like Archie does not look like a 17-year-old kid anymore, or
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think Life is Strange could really work as a TV show.
Yeah. The template's already there for it in the games, so
Yeah.
I think the same could be said for Disco Elysium as well.
No, that's the one Jens is against, because the problem with that one is it's so open-ended, or so many choices in that game that it's really hard to tie down like one specific story.
Yeah, what's the canon?
Yeah. The only way I could see that actually working, and they don't have, this is Amazon and not Netflix, is, remember Black Mirror Bandersnatch, or
right,
whatever the hell the thing was called.
Yes, that thing.
Like the choose your own adventure. Like if they had something like that, then it could work. But they don't.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them representing the choices and having like the character be in thought,
Yeah.
and like he's going through the different choices, kind of similar to like how you would do it in the game. I assuming they would not be a dice roll or whatever,
Right.
but then he would eventually just choose one. Um, eh, I mean, I guess it depends if they're going to. I don't know if they're going to even are they going to consult the game makers for this, or they, are they going to tell them, okay, well, you need to kind of figure out what would you say is the canon way to go through this game, and then we're going to kind of adapt that, like. So I kind of agree with the ends on that part of like you do kind of get that part of it taken away, but I mean, film TV is a passive medium, so at some point they are going to have to kind of go in a direction and just say, well,
Yeah.
this is what we think it is. That I mean, it does have intriguing plot lines that could make for it, make a good TV show out of it, but it's not like we don't get other kind of detective-y
Yeah, noir detective
show.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have a bunch of those already. So I could also see it coming on and kind of being a bit middling.
Yeah.
So that's your TV internet minute there for longer than a minute for video games this week.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, we will do the thing we usually do, which we already know what the big major game is coming out. We already talked about it a couple of times. Elden Ring, of course, is the headliner going into next week. And you also got Monarch coming out, which is like a strategy RPG. You got Soul Cresta, which is the Platinum Games version of a reviving an old style shump shooter. You got the Assetto Corsa coming to the PS5 and Xbox Series. Kraken Academy hits the Switch. Martha is Dead comes out as well, which that got into a lot of controversy with Sony is doing their thing where they censor the game. Atelier Sophie 2 is
Game of the
coming
year.
out. And Grid Legends is also coming, which EA made a big uh, much to do about when they acquired Codemasters. And of course, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is coming to the Switch Online expansion thing. And Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remastered also comes out this week, which will put a bookend to the Pixel Remastered stuff on PC. Now, please, Square Enix, at your next, whatever your next digital event is, please announce that it's coming to Switch so I can buy them. I'm not making the mistake of buying them on PC again. Never playing them on PC and then having them come to the consoles later. Not doing that again. I'm just waiting. Because they're going to come. I just cannot imagine that they're going to like not make that money that you know is waiting for them to show up on the Switch. I mean, like, really? You're not going to make that money? Really, Square? I just don't see it. So yeah,
I mean, they don't make money. I mean, they don't do a lot of stuff that would make them money. So
I agree with you. Like, actually caring more about their ports or whatever. But
I mean, I'd be happy with a HD or a Switch version of that Theater Rhythm arcade game.
I mean, I'd love it if they just ported those games over to the Switch from the 3DS as well. But they're probably not going to do.
Yeah.
So that being said, that's it for this week. We'll be back on Friday night, hopefully Saturday morning, with the next show. Maybe we can get Jens to come on to talk about his experience with Elden Ring, and maybe he will have done like Marc said, bought him a version so they can play together, and Marc will just be able to talk about it. So, and definitely Mark will have more thoughts on Horizon. So.
I think if that actually happens, it'll be like 3 months from now after he's already beaten Elden Ring like 4 times.
Oh, God. So, all right. Well, until next week, everybody. See you later.
Later.